Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to everyone joining us this afternoon on the webinar. What is not warm is the weather out there. It is properly cold. I don't know about the rest of South Africa, but here in Cape Town, we've had a proper winter storm the last few days. Rain, hail, it's cold. So if you see me shivering, understand it's cold. What is not cold is our guest. From a nice warm France, we're welcoming Jean-Yves Kbaier from Quickbrain joining us this afternoon. And we'll learn more from Jean-Yves very soon. But first, let's tell you a little bit more about Aguru and our business. I'm very glad to be assisted this afternoon by Jennifer Van Riet from Silver 17. She's helping us with the coordination of the webinar. Thank you, Jennifer, for the coordination and arrangements and having everything set up very nicely. And I think with that, you can share the presentation so that we can give a little bit of information to our webinar guests.
Coming right up. Thank you, Johan.
Good. So our subject this afternoon is about a computer maintenance management system. And I will be telling you about how we got to this point and why we have chosen this theme to start our series of webinars this afternoon. But firstly, just a quick question to everybody. Jennifer, I think we've got a slide there showing the background of the poll, and it's asking that while we are doing the webinar, if you can just go to the poll session, there is a question that says, have you implemented a computerized maintenance management system? Either having your implementation complete, or deciding on implementation, or you're evaluating options. You might not have started, you're still using Excel or Microsoft projects, or you are using a combination of an ERP and a document management system. And if you're not sure what a CMMS is, well, don't despair. That is what this afternoon is about, is to help you get all of that clarified. So please answer the poll while we are continuing with the discussion. Jennifer, if you can put up the slide of our guru, and just to give everybody a background of our business. So Aguru is still a fairly new company. We incorporated in 2017, and we have the mission to improve the collaboration between man and machine. And we're going to focus on subjects like sustainability, productivity, compliance, safety, and probably the most challenging of all is inclusivity. Now, our solutions range from strategy, but also working with people, so people wellness, people safety. We, for instance, have a contact tracing solution. Our solutions, and that would be SaaS solutions, software as a service, are around people management, asset management, and data management. And when it comes to delivering projects for our clients, we are an aggregator, meaning that we bring ecosystems together. We bring the competencies of people in the field for our technology so that we can deliver solutions for clients. If you want to find out more, please contact me. We'll be sharing the contact details later on. So one of our objectives is obviously, if we want to service the market with asset management, is to have solutions and services that we can bring to the market. And for that, we did quite a bit of market intelligence. We did, we scouted for the solutions out there. But one of the critical things that was very important to us was that we are not bringing a solution developed by software developers, but that we're bringing solutions to our region by people that understands maintenance, understands asset management, and have walked the journey to be able to bring those solutions to the market. So we were very glad to announce our partnership with Quickbrain, with ENNOVIA and Crazy Lock back in March this year. And with that, I can welcome Jean-Yves Kbaier, the CEO and founder of ENNOVIA and Crazy Lock, to tell us a little bit more about his organization. So Jean-Yves, warm welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining us on this very cold afternoon on our side and nice and warm afternoon on your side. Firstly, tell me about your journey with Quickbrain. How did it get to the point where you decided you're going to be developing a system and making it available to the world?
Yeah, thank you first, Johan, for inviting me. For Quickbrain, at the beginning of the story, so 13 years ago, where we had decided to start ENNOVIA, Quickbrain was dedicated to just store data and be and at the beginning of the story, it was designed for just populating Cmms, so maintenance management solution, to help consultants to optimize maintenance plans, spare parts lists, and manage all the documentation before integrating all this data into a CMMS. But progressively, because in fact, the figure is 80 or more % of the CMMS project deployments failed. So we decided, and we had very positive feedback from end customers, and we decided to go and to develop complementary modules, not only a simple data recorder, but because we had all the information needed for the maintenance as a maintenance plan, we decided to have a schedule for scheduling functionalities for preparing the preventive maintenance and other functionalities for managing spare parts inventory. And this is how we've got the first customers, and the feedback and the basic of the software was to have something simple, efficient, and who would not need to have 6 months to be trained on and to be able to use it. That was, and this is our motto: simple and efficient, and this is why we had very, very positive feedback from the technician on the ground, because most of the software or most of the things are not designed for the technicians, but the technician is the beginning of the story, and this is what we'll discover in a couple of minutes during the presentation.
Okay, so you've used the term CMMS. I think maybe some of our listeners this afternoon might not be familiar with the term. Jennifer, if you can put up the slide that we have with all the terms that we might be using this afternoon. We're familiar with these, so we might just sneak them in here and there. So I thought I'll put them up on the slide so that everybody's comfortable. But Jean-Yves, can you explain to us what is a computerized maintenance management system? What is a CMMS?
Yes, a CMMS is a software designed to first manage all the assets, build an asset register of your organization, then organize the job you have to do for maintaining all the equipments, and at the beginning, the initial goal of the CMMS was the financial cost management. So the cost management, and that's the main problem of this software. But so asset register, organize the job, and then follow the cost.
Okay. And EDMS, where does that come in? Where does all the electronic documentation come into the building of your overall system?
In fact, Quickbrain, I think, is one of it's quite unique solution, because it's a combination of CMMS and a documentation management solution. So all documents are related to all the equipments in a very effective way, and documentation is the fuel of the CMMS, is the fuel of the maintenance. This is where the technician has to search for any information to fix, to repair, to train himself.
Mm-hmm. So of course, in a new facility or even an established facility, we're not gonna start production or start operation of that facility without having a proper maintenance system in place. And critical to doing any operation and maintenance is documentation.
Yeah.
So the client needs to build up his full record of documentation that serves every component, every unit, and the procedures that might be going along with his control system, etc.
Yeah.
I think what we can do is to maybe go to the next slide, Jennifer, and then maybe be guided by Jean-Yves as we're going forward. And I think, Jean-Yves, you want to start by getting a quick assessment, maybe just putting those questions out there for each of our listeners to kind of think by themselves, where are they in this process? How do we get going with getting a CMMS implemented? Or if we have the basics of a system, maybe we're using combination of Excel and the ERP system. How do we take the next step? What are those things that we need to ask? So we've got that slide up, Jean-Yves.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, this one. So sorry. now I have the slide. Great. Yeah. So the CMMS is just a tool. It's a software. So what is really important during this kind of project is first to have a real will of the management to go through this change that will be driven by the CMMS, and of course to have enough money to go and to make the project a success. Then do you have a good knowledge of all the equipments you have installed in your plant? So does the asset register is complete enough for the project? Then the most important are the maintenance processes. Do you know exactly how you are actually doing the maintenance for service request management, inventory management, quantity maintenance management? If you don't know exactly who is doing what, it will be a nightmare to install this kind of solution. KPI. So do you have do you know exactly what would you like to measure? Would you like to challenge, with this tool? And do you have existing key performance indicators? And another thing, and I think it's very, very important as well, is your team used to manage changes? So if you replace a pump, for example, or any equipment, do you have a process to be sure you have the right spare parts on the storeroom? Are you sure that the documentation for this new pump is stored, is archived somewhere, and allowed, and technicians have access to it? Is asset register is updated with the new reference, new manufacturer of the pump, and so on? So all these things, if you have a yes to all these questions, yes, of course, you're fully ready to go to the CMMS. If not, then you need to, your maturity level is potentially good, but you need to reinforce some of these topics before starting the project. If we could go to the
So I think one of the essential highlights here is the buy-in from management. This is not a subject that we're going to see originating or being authorized deep in the organization. This is really looking at a holistic approach about how our operations will be monitored, maintained, and availability of equipment and systems maintained over the life of the project. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Management has to fully support the project, and he has to believe in the project and in the fact that this kind of software could make things going better, increase the reliability, decrease the downtime, and so on.
Okay.
Okay. Next. Yeah. I think we could go to the next slide. Yeah, so the slide title is Software versus Objectives. it's very convenient when we decide to go to such kind of project, and it works with all of the softwares. The main, I think, the common habits would be to type on the internet, find all the software editors who can propose this kind of software, and go through all the documentation to see what software is the best. But to know what software is the best is first to know what I want to do with it. It's like I don't know, if you want if you have 6 children, a woman and 6 children, it's not reasonable to buy a Ferrari because it's not your need. Okay, if you want to have an affair, it's another way. But the first thing is start to be realistic. So the first thing is, regarding the objective, it's not reasonable to want to go too high and too fast. The software is just a tool. So what is really important is to know exactly where you are and where you want to go. Okay, and to define different steps, and not trying to start from a very low level of maturity and try to go in the top, in the world-class maintenance club in a couple of months. It's not reasonable, and the software will not help you for doing this. Be inclusive. It's very, very important that all the organization will fully cooperate in thinking, in deploying, in using the solution, and especially people on the ground, people in the field. So the technicians has to be fully included in the project. It's not recommended to just left the IT department drive the project. Of course, pragmatism is of course important, and if you have needs, if you want to be supported, it's not a problem to ask for support, for an external support, for guidance, and I think it's quite, if you don't have a good experience of deploying such kind of softwares, it's recommended to get external support. Not because you don't know and you will not be successful, but to save time. I think that's the more thing, and to not spend money to doing again and again, to make mistake and to restart the project again and again because you have not chosen the right way at the beginning of the story. And be analytic. So it's really important to define what are your objectives. Okay, and how do you want to measure the improvement that you would like to have with this software? So that's kind of a set of questions that has to be clearly answered before looking for a software.
So what I see from this is what is quite essential is that a client will need a management of change process, because he's going to transition from his existing, let's say it's already a facility that's in operations. It's not a new site. He's going to transition from a paper-based sort of traditional approach to maintenance. He will have combination of spreadsheets. He might have a system that he wants to replace. But what is critical here is that he brings the manager or the executive that's in charge brings the team together through this management of change process. What can go wrong? What have you seen if clients try to go too fast, too hard with implementing systems?
Yeah, if it's too fast, then people on the field will be lost quickly. They will continue to use what they were previously used, generally Excel spreadsheets. Okay, and they will not populate properly. They are not populating properly all the data the CMMS is requiring to fully deliver its power. I mean, to get good KPI, you need to have good data. So that's the most thing. And generally, technicians, at the beginning of the project, you have very nice presentation of what the software could do, and the technician are in a kind of dream. But when the project starts, it becomes quickly a nightmare, because the difference they have in what they was imagining, what they were thinking about, what had been presented, and what they have in the hand is very different. So it's not good. It's not really good for the team, and it's not good for the productivity at the end.
So what are the next steps? Where do we go from here? If once we've got ourselves aligned and agreed, and we've got a program, how do we go to the next step?
The next step
maybe is that's the next slide.
It is. Next step is its title is garbage in, garbage out. The next step is to be sure your reference technical database, your reference is clear, is right. Because if you put some wrong data, of course, in the software, it's not a clever software. It will deliver wrong data to the technicians. And if one technician is looking for, I don't know, a maintenance plan for a pump, or what he has to do on the plant, or if he has spares available for this pump, if the software tell him, yes, of course you have one spare available. I don't know, the ball bearing is stored, is in storeroom number 1. If he goes there and could not find the bearing, okay, 1 time, 2 times, but the 3rd time it's finished and he will never use the solution. Or this is just regarding the technician, but it could lead to injuries, or it could lead to maybe worst case, if you work with wrong wiring diagrams, of course, it's not good for people in the cabinets. So the first thing is the asset register. I had seen a question about the methodology to build the asset register. What is really important for the asset register, and it's a long discussion we could have together to find what is the best, breakdown to represent the plant or the facility. It's not really the debate. The debate is, can a technician find quickly the information he needs? That's the driver. It's not. Do we split the facility by area, by system, subsystem, or whatever? Is it clear, and do all the tags, all the equipments have a tag? If you have a unique tag on all the equipment, and if these tags are reported into the breakdown, it's perfect, because if you type the tag, you go directly to the asset, and then you can find documentation, maintenance plans, spare part list, and so on, whatever you want. So
Sorry to interrupt there, but in the end, what we want is we want the technician to get out in the field to start repair as quick as possible. So it's that ease of accessing information to be able to initiate the next step in a workflow. Maybe there's procurement that needs to be done, or maybe there's a draw from the store that needs to be taking place, or equipment and material needs to be delivered at the site location. But that's what we want to minimize. We want to reduce that time, because ultimately that is plant availability that will be compromised.
Yeah, and to be fast, and to fix quickly any issue, you need to speak a common language, and the common language is the tag of the equipment. If you try to explain, hey guys, it's the red valve close to the green pump, and it does not work. If you have an issue, it's generally reported on the control room by an operator, and the operator is just searching the tag where the alarm is on, and then from the tag you can just write a service request, and then the maintenance team can start to work and can start to find what is going wrong. And the next step, the next point is the documentation. Once you have written the service request and you know you have a problem on this pump, okay, how does this pump work? What are the specificity? What are the controls I need to do, or what are the inspection I need to do on it, or the diagnostic I could do on it? But it's written. This is written on the documentation. So this is very, very important to be sure we have the documentation associated with critical assets. I forgot to talk about the critical assets. It's really important to define with different methods. So there's not one method, but could be FMECA, could be an analysis based on experience or on a fault history or whatever. But once you are focused on a set of critical assets, you don't want them to fail, then you could check that. You have to check that all the documentation is available for these critical assets. The same for the maintenance plan. Do we have a maintenance plan for these critical assets? And the maintenance plans has to be as much detail as possible. It's not do that every week. It's do that, but how to do that? It could be a link to the documentation, or it could be a service instruction. For the spare inventory, same. I think I would say same procedure. Be sure for all your critical assets, you have all the spare parts available, and the spares has to be linked to the equipment by a bill of materials. So it's just a bill of materials. It's just a link between the equipment and the spare parts, explaining how many spares are installed on, or how many bearings do I have on the pump, for example. Yeah, please.
I see there's a question, Jean-Yves. You make use of the term a tag. What do you mean by a tag for the system?
Tag, yeah, sorry. A tag is a functional code. Generally, a tag is on the PNID, is on the generally tags coming from engineering lists, and it's a functional code which will not be modified if, for example, if you replace a pump for you have a KSB pump and you want to replace the pump by another manufacturer. The function will be the same. If it's a feed water pump, then it will still be feed water pump 1, and feed water pump 1 has a code, for example P001, and P001 will not change because I just switch a pump with another model but with the same function. It's different from the manufacturer part number. The manufacturer number for the pump is, what you have on the plate, on the identification plate, and you could have a serial number, you could have a reference to order the same pump. So that's the difference.
So the tag will be the organizational reference to that application versus the nameplate, which would be the product specification from the
correct.
From the
supplier. Yeah, correct. Yeah, functional code could be unique in the world.
Correct. So you mentioned earlier the system is not smart. You need to set up the system correctly to be able to get the functionality out of that. But in this new world where we're creating data, we're interrogating data, we talk about machine learning and artificial intelligence. How do we then move from reactive maintenance into predictive maintenance?
Yeah. It's not a long way, but this is what I've written. It's really important to start first by mastering the reactive maintenance. I mean, spare parts management and the service request process. Once it's clear, then you can go to preventative maintenance, and once the preventative maintenance is clear, then you could go to condition-based maintenance. So the difference between condition-based maintenance and the predictive maintenance, I would say it could be a marketing difference, or it could be a new word for an old thing. But condition-based maintenance is generally related to vibration analysis, thermographic, photographics. It's how to adjust the frequency of the preventative maintenance plan by doing inspections. Could be visual inspections, or could be the condition-based maintenance could be driven by the running hours, could be driven by oil analysis and things like that. The predictive maintenance is a bit different. We have two kind of families for the predictive maintenance. The first one is for fleet of assets. For example, if you have fleet of cars, planes, trucks, whatever, it's or any kind of equipment, washing machine, whatever you have. In this kind of for all these assets that are similar, they are quite reliable individually. But if you get all the failure history from all the fleets, then you could identify statistically using deep learning models. You could identify according to the environment of each equipment. You can find some rules. For example, if it's hot, if the moisture content is very, very high, if I don't know, the temperature of the brewing is above 30 degrees and so on, then I could have this kind of fault. But to do that, you need to have a very, very detailed record of the failures and all the environmental data of the equipment itself, and plus all the equipment around, and plus the all the data. This is why we are talking about big data. You need to take all the data available for the equipment and on its surrounding area, and combine it to the failure history. But it's not kind of magic. It's just you have identified one failure. For example, I don't know, if you have to change a part of your car, or whatever it is, and it works pretty well. If you have to change a part of your car, inner part of the car, and this kind of failure occurred a lot of time during, I don't know, a couple of years on the whole fleet of cars, then you could identify this specific failure, and from this specific failure you can, by gathering the data and analyzing the data, find some correlation between the failure and the surrounding data, environment data, and building the rules and then applying the rules. But the predictive maintenance, we never predict a failure that has not already came. Okay, it's not intelligence.
It's
not
all
clever.
about having the data, is having the history to analyze, to build.
You need to already have a failure history to do.
But we could get that from a supplier, for instance. Supplier might have data models on the history of, let's say, a bearing performance on a drive shaft or something of the sort. So we can include that into our system. I see a question from Sven and Hichu and Azruddin, which I think we can combine to maybe answer. And it goes back to the subject about the definition of a tag. Yeah. And they ask, how do we differentiate between one equipment piece and another? Let's say we've got pump 1 and pump 2, and specific now maybe to Quickbrain, but how do we make that differentiation? How do we make use of barcoding or QR coding, etc., to be able to make that differentiation? And taking it another step further, if I now replace the nameplate, let's say pump set, how do I retain its old history? Because physically I've got a new item. Maybe if you can just elaborate on that tag management and specific equipment identification.
It's a very good question, because it's a starting point of a painful discussion and painful consequences. In most of the CMMS, the modelization of the equipment is really not well done by consultants. The software can do a lot of things, but it's not well modelized. What I mean is you first start by the function. The function is pumping water. Okay, it's P001, pumping water. It's a function. It's in I don't know if in Maximo it's okay. It could be it could be modelized differently between SAP, between Maximo, but first object is the function. The second object is the asset. So the asset is the machine itself, or the instrument, or whatever it is, and the asset is identified by a serial number and a manufacturer and a reference from the manufacturer. Okay, and this asset has spare parts. So this is the third level, and the spare parts is identified by a spare part code to find it in the storeroom, a reference from the manufacturer of the spare part, and a description. The minimum things we need to have. But generally, that's to get all this information. And all these three level.
Oops, I think we've lost Jean-Yves there. I think let's maybe just give a moment to see if we can get him back. Hopefully we don't have a terminal disconnect with France. Jennifer, maybe if we can,
yes.
While we give Jean-Yves a chance to see if he can reconnect,
we can maybe all he has to do is refresh, Johan, but it sounds interesting to me. So this tag story, from my point of view, it seems like you have a machine, right? And that machine has spare parts. So the machine has the tag, say pump 001. But if something breaks within that machine, you still have to call it pump 001 because you have to know where the spare part is going. Am I right?
Correct. So the end of the day is we have a function, and I always like to simplify things to cars because everybody knows cars. In my car, I know exactly what my car is. I've got a car, my wife's got a car, it's car A and car B. The function is transport for the family. If I now have, let's say I have to replace the spark plugs in the engine, then the new spark plugs is something that I need to draw from the store, for which I would have a reference. It would be on a catalog, etc. And I would be able to build history about the performance of those spark plugs. How long are they lasting for me? I can combine that with other performance information. If I'm driving very fast or I buy inferior fuel, then it will certainly shorten the life expectancy of the spark plugs. But I have to decouple my function of having transport for the family to what vehicle is exactly the vehicle in use, and then breaking it down to the specific component. And that combination of history can help me then to drive an optimal maintenance strategy that I want to drive for my family, or take that to the industrial environment, to the operations.
I see Jean-Yves is back. Welcome back, Jean-Yves. Bienvenue. We were just discussing how the tag would work. And Johan had said that it is kind of like having your car. You still have the car, but you have to have your spare parts too. You can't just go buy a spare part for whoever and put it wherever, right?
And have that history of the specific performance of that component.
With that, I'm going to put on up.
The other question I wanted to get back to, and we will, before we give Jean-Yves to close off in his last slides, is about, and it kind of stays along the theme of the tag and the interfacing with the tag. What about mobile? What capability does Quickbrain have to make use of mobile devices to engage with that tag, that piece of equipment in the field, and giving the maintenance professional access to the required data, or initiate a process in his workflow?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. I have a Okay, we try to explain. So, with Quickbrain, we are using what we call the PWA application, the technology developed by Google, and it's like if you install an application from the web browser. It's a capability if you're on the mobile version of Quickbrain to install it from the web browser on your tablet or on your laptop. So the principle of working is you can prepare your job in the office on your laptop and take your laptop outside, okay, and without any connection and continue to work if you want. Or prepare the job with your tablet and go on site with a tablet. It's fully transparent for the technician.
And we would obviously make use of a tablet that is appropriate for the plant environment. So maybe it needs to be ruggedized, or maybe it needs to be intrinsically safe for the operations. But generally, we could start in a non-risk environment with a normal tablet or even a mobile phone. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. Some tablets are designed for explosive area. This has to be defined at the beginning before buying the tablet, of course.
So we've got one last slide here, Jean-Yves, before we go to the rest of the questions. And you make a bold statement. You say that the system is not going to do the maintenance work for you. I thought we computerize our operations now. Where does the help come from? We still need the humans out in the field.
Yeah, sorry for the audience, but the software is just here to support you and not to do the job automatically, because I've seen in some demonstration it looks like a science fiction movie. But if you don't have well defined what we explained previously, your beautiful tool will not really be useful for anybody. What is important is to get the right functionalities. So the functionalities you need, and not buy a software that could do everything. Is not really a good starting point, because it will give a lot of complexity to the end user. So, if you want something simple with a lot of functionalities, it does not exist. I have a high level of latency. Okay, so now it looks to be is of the software. It's not reasonable, of course, to operate and to manage the Cmms, the 3 billion round plant, of course, with a very low cost software. And the opposite is true.
Yeah.
So put enough money, or do not spend too much money on very luxurious product, and that on which you will only use 5 or 10% of the offered functionalities, and you will spend a lot of time removing the functionalities you would not like to use. The consulting and support is really important as well, because generally this kind of projects are driven by the IT department and IT engineers. Never went onto a plan or never use a rent or any kind of tool. So they don't really know what are exactly the needs of the technicians on the field. So this is why it's much reasonable to be supported by consultants from the sectors of the customers, done by an IT.
So it's important to have that relevant experience about the client's operations to understand how the maintenance for for that type of facility will operate, how the maintenance for the equipment in use is appropriately delivered, so that you can extract that value for the client as best possible.
Yeah.
And simplicity is the key to it all.
Yeah, correct. It's very important to know what is the technician, what daily the task he has to do, what are his pain points. It's really clear. It's very, very important to have a field experience. Yeah, to have field experience. It's the same thing for the training. If you start, in a beautiful classroom with slide 1 on 200 slides, you will very quickly lose most of the audience. Some of the technicians are really in the hard reality of the field. They not really interested by having courses during days explaining. If you click on the red button, then that will display the green window. They don't care. What they want is, when I am on the control room, when I am on the storeroom, when I am on the plant, what do I have? What can I do? What should I do? Where should I type? How to create a service request? How to see if the spares are available? How to, but on a real example and on real situation. This is why the face-to-face experience is the best one. Go on site with the technician and explain during all the day how to do things with him, but with the technician in front of the software, okay, and not just sit on the chair in the classroom.
So to summarize that, in the end, the technician's job is to go and do the maintenance to ensure that the plant or the piece of equipment goes back online. He doesn't want to be interfered by the system. The system must work for him. He mustn't work for the system. He needs to be able to get in there. He needs to get the information that he required quickly. It needs to be set up simple, efficient for him, so that he can get to his real job as quick as possible. And once we get that balance right of having information, structuring it properly, planning, obviously preventative maintenance activities, extracting information, what we can do from predictive work, but all of that ultimately must come together for that technician to get into the field as quick as possible at the right time to be able to deliver his ultimate work, which is the maintenance or the replacement or etc. the work that he's doing. We're going a little bit more over time, and we thank everybody for staying on, participating. Jennifer, if you can maybe guide us just from the top, some of the questions I've noticed one or two along the way, and I'm sure I've missed a couple as my focus was here. I think one that was early on, Jean-Yves, if you can help us to what's the difference between a Cmms, Computerized Maintenance Management System, and a CAFM, a Computer-Aided Facilities Management System?
Generally, facilities management solutions have less functionalities than CMMS. They are mostly designed for building management, and in the situation of you have service contracts, okay, no people on site, and then you can call if you have to change a light bulb. If you have a problem in the toilet, then you have a company dedicated to do that, and you can write service requests and manage the operation to be sure everything was properly done, and then manage the invoicing and so on. For the CMMS, situation is generally different. You have a maintenance team. You can have several plants, or very huge, very large plants with thousands or tens of thousands assets. And the software is designed to properly manage both technical data and the job of the maintenance team. Facilities maintenance solutions are less focused on the asset itself. It's most focused on the management of the service itself.
So another question that has bearing on this one, Johan, is, and how is this CMS system differ? How does it differ from Maximo and SAP?
So of course, Maximo is a system that Quickbrain interfaces very well, and it's you have models integrating there. It's SAP is an ERP system. So how do we bring the two together?
Generally, we can start by Quickbrain. It's designed for low-level maturity organization in maintenance. It's not recommended to start by Maximo. We are partner of IBM for the Maximo product, and I mean, if you can start very quickly and easily by Quickbrain, and then transfer everything to SAP or to Maximo when you have reached the right level of maturity. Okay, that's the difference.
Okay.
So if we have a kind of a progression project in a large facility, or if we have a smaller facility, then ideally we would start with Quickbrain. But if we have an established system, we can also integrate with Maximo and certain elements of SAP as we need it. So we're not delinked from those systems. But ideally, we would be the core for.
From Quickbrain can be interfaced very easily with SAP, Maximo, Infor, AIM, Oracle, AIM.
Okay. So thank you, Azurudin, for that question.
Yes, so the next question has bearing. It's from Hugo, and Hugo says the system is only as good as the configuration. Does Aguru and ENNOVIA follow specific processes to define and configure the asset structure for the customers?
I think Jean-Yves answered that when he said it's about the technician. It's
right.
About
so is the EDMS then completely paperless? And if so, what infrastructure is required to support the operation, like EX-rated tablets for artisans performing inspections in hazardous areas, etc.?
We quickly touched on that, but maybe just a quick elaboration on that aspect, Jean-Yves, about the infrastructure and equipment to deploy Quickbrain.
Quickbrain is a cloud-based hosted solution. Could be hosted in the country, of course, of the customer. So it's very easy to deploy. It's just a connection with a secure URL. You can type and connect to Quickbrain. No installation required on the desktop. But it's very, very simple to deploy.
Okay, so the next question will then be, an asset will have it. Oh, sorry, let me ask this question first from Sven. Is the app web-based or and.apk?
And it could be installed locally on your servers, of course.
Okay, so it can be installed locally. So the one last question that I have here from Johan is that an asset will have a unique ID number, which will stay with the asset from the cradle to grave, rotable spares that can be used in numerous locations in a plant. Location number will identify location in plant and its functional operation, and tag will typically refer to P&ID. So he just wanted to check whether that is correct or not, whether he understands that.
I think it takes us back to the question about what is the specific of the tag, and we've decoupled from the function to the tag to the specific item, which would be a barcoded reference to that component or unit, etc. And that is all differentiated in the system.
Yeah, it's very well differentiated. Yeah, both of them.
Okay, so if a plant is sorry,
just to
Johan,
close
you
off
go
on that
on.
point, Jennifer, if we think it as process design, unless we have a management of change process, that there's a cause to change in the process function will remain. I will always have a pump that fills a tank. Argument's sake, the pump is the item in question. And I have a redundancy approach to that pump application. It can be pump A, B, and C. And I would have that pump A, B, and C until I have a process design change. But when pump A fails and I need to replace that pump, physically becomes a new pump. So I need to have still for, let's say it's pump 100A. I still have a pump 100A. And I will have a new pump 100A, and therefore I need to be able to differentiate between the history of the previous pump 100A and, of course, now my new pump 100A, for which I need to build a new book of history. What is his running time? What is the component performance? And all of those things. So that differentiation is very important and necessary in the system so that we can build that data program over time, that we can do analysis and move from reactive to predictive maintenance.
So Hugo asked a question that also has bearing on this. He said, if a plant is 20 years old without tags, documentation is not properly maintained and maintenance strategy is not reviewed, is it important to correct all of this before the platform can be deployed? How can deployment be started and scaled up?
I mean, it's not a question of Quickbrain, but all the software, all the database need some unique ID to find the information. We were involved in projects in very old plants. Effectively, it could be complicated, but we strongly recommend at the minimum thing is to put a tag on the equipment. That's key, and without that, it's not really reasonable to start a Cmms project.
Okay,
so I guess if I can add that, I think it is one of our closing points. In the end, ideally, we would like to have a plant perfectly configured, but the reality is that usually is not the case. Even a new plant is in some level of progression. There might be some design change taking place, or there could be change in management philosophy or maintenance philosophy, etc. So I think what is important there, and it goes full circle to some of the earlier points that Jean-Yves highlighted, is that organization need to start somewhere. To try to take the big leap, if your current operations are not fully digitized or doesn't have all those processes in place, trying to do it all at once is going to be difficult. You're going to need a number of resources, and it will take some time. Ideally, you want to break down that process, work with a consultant that can strategize what is the sort of the sequence of events that you need to take place. Yes, you will have to address the tagging of your equipment. You want to be able to see how you link from your process control operations to your maintenance operations, so that everybody speaks the same language. As we take those steps, we can say start in a plant unit, or you can start in an area. But ideally, we want to look at what is the value for the customer. We want to do maintenance where he has a problem, where he maybe has an issue with plant availability or repetitive failures. So we're going to have to do a bit of a cost-benefit analysis when we make that assessment of how do we transition from the non-digital space to the fully digitalized space. And as Jean-Yves highlighted, that's the role of the consultant, is to be able to come and help with that process for the client, make that transition, affect the training, getting the comfort with the system, because ultimately that value is going to go to the client, what he can extract from the system, how he can build data over time. So it's a progressive process, and certainly one that lends itself to extracting quite a bit of value.
Fantastic.
I think
Unfortunately, we've reached the end of our... Yes, we've covered most of them except for the attendance certification. Do you know if there will be any attendance certifications here? Have you decided
Certainly,
whether to give people?
We can issue an attendance certificate, participation. So Aguru will be issuing that certificate for everybody that attended today. If you could just indicate if you would require that that attendance certificate, either in the polls or by sending us an email, we would be happy to prepare that for you and return that so that it can go onto your HR records within your organization.
Excellent. So, Johanna, I'm seeing that the survey link is not working. Would you mind sending it again, perhaps to the attendants afterwards when we send out that email?
Right, so thank you. We'll distribute it. I will have to look into why it wasn't working. I wonder if it's not past its expiry date. So that would be my mistake. It
these
should be
things
back.
happen. These things
it should
happen.
be back up this afternoon, but please let us know if you haven't got it. And thank you very much for everyone's participation. I see some are starting to log off. It's Friday afternoon. It's cold. Get the fireplaces on. Get the wine out. And enjoy the time with the family. Those that might still be at work, wherever you are around the world, thank you for everybody that has dialed in. We've all have different arrangements around lockdown, so if you're traveling, travel safely. But certainly, all the best for everybody. Jean-Yves, thank you very much for spending your afternoon with us and sharing your valuable insights. Very much appreciated.
Sorry for my English and.
Yeah, no, I'm sure if there's
Thank you
a
very much
question
for your
afterwards, we can translate. And of course, Jennifer, to you, thank you very much for all the coordination. I believe we will have a recording put out, and we will be sharing the links with the participants as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for using Silver 17. Jean-Yves, Johan, thank you. Have a good afternoon. And I hope we see you all again very soon. Thank you for participating, audience. It was fabulous meeting all of you. And have a good weekend.
There's more webinars coming, so please look out for our adverts.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And follow us. And on LinkedIn, we're also on LinkedIn, so connect with us all. And we'll keep you up to date.
Keep
have a good afternoon, everyone. Ciao.
All the best. Ciao, ciao.
See you next time.